This tank is the E50. This is a Tier 9 German medium tank. The map is Sand River. I'm going to show you a sniping position that you can use in this game. In regards to the tank, the E50, I'm really not that happy with it. You know, there's a lot of people that love it. They think it's great for ramming, and maybe it is, but I just don't have incredible games with it. I don't enjoy rolling it out. Now, this is the general area of the sniping positions, and there's a few different ways to play it. I'm still trying to figure out how to master this position, but one thing you definitely want to do is knock as many trees down as possible. I did shoot a high explosive round at him, and the reason why is because when you're playing in this position, tanks are going to side scrape. You're only going to see the turrets of their tanks, so that's why I use the high explosive rounds. Now, I am getting hit, and the reason why is because I'm the first one to show up, and I like to get that first shot in. But as the battle changes, when my allies show up and my allies are starting to do the spotting, it's going to change the game a little bit. As long as the enemy doesn't control this upper position, you'll be fine. If they do control that position, you're going to have an escape plan, which is usually going to be to reverse. And you have to watch for tanks that show up on the dunes on the left. So we control the tanks, the dunes on the left right now. And the enemy doesn't control the spotting position at the top of the hill. So it's actually going to be a pretty safe game. If I want to spot, I'm going to roll forward. Otherwise, I'm going to wait for the enemy to be spotted by my allies. I did do 574 damage on that T-92 when I took that shot at him. This is definitely a good position if you have an autoloader or if you have a derp gun that does a lot of damage. You also are going to need something that can penetrate. You're going to need high explosive rounds, or you're going to need APCR rounds or something with a high penetrating gun, because you're going to be going up against the strong armor of heavy tanks in this position. Ideally, you want your artillery to stun the tanks before you go in and shoot at them. I didn't do a lot of damage. I didn't have the right round for that particular tank. But what you're going to notice is because of what I did to that E100, he's afraid to advance. I'm not in a typical position. You're going to notice over here there's a lot of cover. There's a lot of solid objects, even though they're destructible. You want to avoid destroying anything. And you want to shoot for those weaker tanks that are in the back, like that KV-4. That was a lousy shot. I should have hit him. I did 175 damage on that shot. Only did 40 on that shot. Only did 28 on that shot. I've switched to regular rounds. So I didn't do any damage with the regular rounds, even though I was aiming for a good weak spot. That was not well aimed, so I probably missed. I am getting spotting damage. That also was not very well aimed, so it ricocheted. So the last one I got 416 damage. I don't know how I got spotted. We do not control the dunes anymore. And we don't control that upper hill either. I must have missed that shot, which is too bad. I got 2,000 damage. I was able to take the KV-4 out of the game. Missed a shot on that FV. Now with the regular rounds, I'm going to ricochet, so I'm switching back to the HE rounds. That one missed. No penetration. You'll notice that he didn't spot me. I spotted him. I got spotting damage, and he did not spot me. Score is 5-6. I'm up to 2,500 damage, 500 spotting damage. It's going to be a bit more risky now to be in this position. So you do have to watch out for those the changes in the risk. So that was 411 damage, and I was taken out of the game. Obviously, I wasn't careful. I allowed myself to be spotted when I fired that last shot. What I should have done is just spotted him and let my ally shoot at him, but I didn't do it. Okay, so I got 2,969 damage, 500 spotting damage, and 1 kill. This tank is a T-34 2GFT. This is a Chinese Tier 7 tank destroyer, and the map is steppes. I like this style of tank destroyer, which is made popular by the Soviet line of tank destroyers. And it's similar to some of the American tank destroyers, and maybe lesser so some of the other countries. But I like it because it's got a nice slope armor. Some of them have really nice guns. They tend to be pretty fast. I like playing them. So I definitely recommend going down this tank destroyer line if you like tank destroyers. I'm going to show you a sniping position. Now, this is the beginning of the game, and what I do is I come to monitor this middle row in case any light tanks come through there. After waiting for a period of time, I decided I was going to stop waiting, and now I'm going to go to the sniping position that I'm going to show you for this video. Basically, the situation is I'm in the Philippines, and I have a high ping time, so it's difficult to play a fast-moving game. I like to play light tanks, but it's very difficult with the fast action with the high ping time. So when I have problems with my internet connection, I play tank destroyers or SPG, and I sit in the back and I snipe. So if I lose the connection, I'm not going to get killed or anything like that. If you watch my videos, you know I like to play on the front lines. I like to be in front of my allies. I like to play a leadership role, scouting around and doing all the dirty work. So over here, you're going to notice that there's a bush in front of me. And because of that bush, you can sit way in the back and snipe at enemy tanks. I put the high explosive rounds on because I'm going to see the tops of their turrets, and the AP is just going to ricochet off the turret, but the HE is going to do some damage, although half as much as an AP round. If I want to spot, I can move forward, spot, and then pull back to shoot. You can see there's a tank. I just barely missed that tank. It was a good opportunity. Another thing about this position is that more than one tank can definitely sit here. So you can see that I'm getting bored. I noticed that my allies were not in a spotting position, so I decided to pull forward to see if I could spot something. One of the other good things about this position is you can fire from the bush and then hide behind the rock immediately. This is very good if you have a derp gun. So I did 241 damage with an HE round against that tank. And I got 132 spotting damage. So I'm going to talk a little bit about spotting damage. if more than one tank is spotting the tank, there's people that say you only get half the spotting damage. It's not true. It's shared among all the tanks that are spotting. So if there's 2 tanks spotting, you're going to get 30%, etc. And another thing about spotting is that you might spot a tank, but if the tank fires his gun, everybody's going to spot him. So you really only get that spotting damage if he hasn't fired his gun yet. Once he fires his gun, all the other tanks in range are going to see him. So you lose that spotting damage. And then what happens is tanks are going to be shooting tanks that they're self-spotting. So sometimes you don't get the spotting damage that you deserve. Now, there's obviously an IS behind that bush, and I could easily fire some random shots. The shot hit the ground, so I know that there's probably not a tank in that spot right there. Maybe I'll give it another shot. There he is. If you're within 1 meter of an enemy tank and you fire a higher explosive round, then you're likely to do some damage, although it might not be a lot. Score 6-6. I've got a total of 241 damage and 132 spotting damage. It looks like we're going to be winding down this spotting position because my team is winning on the west side. And the IS is out of the game. So obviously I'm going to relocate to another position. But that's the end of this particular sniping position. So let's move on to the next video. This tank is a Scorpion G. This is a German Tier 8 tank destroyer. The map is Overlord, which is based on the Normandy landings. I kind of like this map. I just don't like the fact that we're playing symmetrically north versus south. I wish it was a beach landing versus a defensive team. That would make it so much more fun and would allow us to recreate the Normandy landings. I'm very disappointed that they made it symmetrical. Okay, so you notice that I'm heading out to the beach, and the reason why I'm going a little bit towards the back is because we don't know what's going to happen. And I want my spotting range to be at the point where I think the enemy is going to show up. So if I fire, I want them to be beyond my spotting range, and I want to be beyond their spotting range. So I decided to take up a position over here, and I'm going to be prepared to advance as necessary. If my team advances, I'm going to continue to advance. This is an excellent tank. It's probably, there's going to be people that will tell you it's the best tank in the game. As my team moves forward, I go with them. It's going to be very difficult to damage that tank, so I switch to the APCR rounds. Normally, I don't like to use APCR rounds, but I will make some exceptions. So I was able to get 438 damage against that Mauerbrecher. You want to be as far away from the enemy as possible. Well, somebody killed him. Oh, it was an FV4005. He must have hit him with a heat round. You notice that I immediately switch back to the AP rounds. And you want to stay as close to the red line as possible because you want to keep that distance so you don't get spotted and be able to give any support for your team that you can. This is an example of not a single sniping position, but moving along and sniping from a distance. So obviously that one bounced. I could easily get spotted if I fire. Yeah, I got spotted. So obviously I'm leaving the spotting position, but I did want to show you what it was like to play in that position. And because the enemy was very close to my vehicle and I didn't want to risk hitting my ally, so I made sure that I was well aimed before I fired my shot. Okay, so that's the sniping position for this particular game. If you stay tuned and watch my future videos, I did play that position with other tanks, so you're going to see it in other games. This tank is the AMX 5120. This is a French Tier 9 heavy tank, and the map is Redshire. This tank is also an autoloader. I am going to get 4,400 damage in this game. I'm going to show you a sniping position. The sniping position is good if you have a derp gun, a gun that does high damage, or a gun that is an autoloader. This is a 4-shot autoloader. So what I'm doing is I'm advancing to these bushes over here. You really got to be very careful. It's very risky to fire from this position, but look at what's going to happen. So I've already got 1,157 damage with my first 3 shots. And I've got some spotting damage on an M41 Bulldog. And the last one did not penetrate. But as you can see, this is a good position. If you have an autoloader, I can sit here and reload without being spotted. It does depend on where the enemy scouts are and whether or not they take up a position in the G5 area. And I've done this with many tanks. Ideally, you want to have a reasonably fast tank. You don't want to be too slow. You don't have to be ultra fast. You can see I'm not being spotted. So I believe I may have taken out his full hit points, which is approximately 1,200 hit points. I'm up to 2657 damage right now. Actually, I'm more like 1,500 hit points. There's probably going to be no more heavy tanks advancing across that gap, so I'm going to move on to a new position, but this is getting outside of the scope of the sniping position, so let's move on to another video. This tank is a Scorpion G. This is a German Tier 8 tank destroyer, and the map is Serene Coast. This is an excellent tank. It's one of the most popular tanks in the game, meaning that more people play this tank than any other tank. It has an excellent gun on it. It's got a reasonably good speed and good mobility. 459 damage, that's very excellent. So this is the position I often go to at the start of the game. It used to be a lot easier, but they make it difficult now. You know, they've made it a lot more difficult. They put a lot of houses in the way so that you can't snipe as easily. Which is sad because not that many people were sniping these tanks on their way over. You know, it turns the map into more of a corridor map. I've got a lot of videos where I play in this position, and you can see that it's very easy to do damage to enemy tanks. That was a miss. So there's a bush on the left, which I used to use by the house, but the problem is that they put houses in front of it so you can't snipe across the bridge anymore, except for over through a small gap. And ideally, so I hit him on the side, unfortunately, but ideally you want to have a spotter and a sniper. That was 495 damage, but I did track him, so I was able to get 540 damage by tracking him. Very easy to hide if you're taking incoming fire. The reason why I took damage is because I wasn't playing properly. What I should have done is fired and then went to hide when I was reloading, but I didn't do it. It was sloppy gameplay. I would do it if I were playing in a clan battle, but I don't do it in these types of battles. And obviously, I got hit from some tank over there. I wasn't paying attention to my right flank. That was another mistake that I made. But I was able to show you the sniping position. Let's move on to the next video. This tank is a Dicker Max. This is a German Tier 6 tank destroyer, and the map is Siegfried Line. I am going to look for a sniping position that you can use when you play on this map. Now you notice that I'm having a little bit of trouble driving around. I have a high ping time. I'm trying to knock the tree down, basically. I play from the Philippines on the North American server, so there's a lot of packet loss and things like that. So what I did was I knocked the tree down. One thing you're going to notice is that not only can you cover the alley through the center of the town, but you can also shoot out in the field from this position. So I got a lucky shot on that T-3485, did 130 damage. Doesn't look like the enemy is being aggressive in the south. They're definitely there, but they're not really making a run to cross into the field. I like sniping positions where you can cover two flanks at the same time. So that one I missed an easy shot. That was a mistake I made. Because I have a high ping time, those sort of things happen. So there's an Su-152 that's out in the distance there at the entrance to the town, but I think it's going to be a while before he does anything substantial. You can see that it's easy for me to go back and forth. I'm going to speed up the game a little bit. Okay, so we've got tanks showing up on another flank. And it is hard to watch more than one flank at the same time. It's very easy that someone might get a shot on me showing up on that flank, so you do have to be very careful. So we got another tank showing up. It's a Tiger P. Got 85 damage on him. It looks like we won in the south. Only did 17 damage on that tank for some reason. Maybe I was using a high explosive round. And that was 297 damage. Okay, so because I had a high ping time, I gave up. And I was really frustrated in this particular game. I remember this game, and I knew I should have run for it, but I didn't. So anyway, I wanted to show the position, and so you can see how powerful it is. It's a very good position to be in and how to play it, and hopefully I'll be showing you more of it in the future.